Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is the Clippers finally reveal their playoff rotation. So that's the topic I'm going to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, you make sure you check out Dreamerspro Max, an online sports community, a place where you can go and start basketball discussions, chat live during games, so many other cool things. If you guys are interested in that, be sure to check that out. We have that linked in the description below and get 7 days of access, so make sure you go ahead and join now. Also, make sure you go ahead and click the join button next to the subscribe button to join the channel to receive loyalty badges from our channel, and also to ensure whenever we go live and you leave a comment, we'll respond to it. So make sure you guys go ahead and do that. Anyway, let me get into this topic right here. So I've been talking about the Clippers rotations all season long. It seems like it's a broken record, but it's something I've been talking about, right? And the reason I've been spending so much time, or I spent so much time on this particular issue, is because of the injuries the Clippers had been dealing with, right? Clippers have been riddled with injuries all season long. If we look at their starting five, we've done this a number of times, but it's worth saying it again. If we look at the Clippers starting five, their starting five, talking about Kawhi Leonard, Patrick Beverley, Serge Ibaka, and Paul George and others, they've missed a combined 100+ games due to injuries. Think about this. Their starting five has missed over 100 games of injuries. Patrick Beverley's missed 20+. Serge Ibaka's missed 20+. That's close to 50. Those two guys alone have missed close to 50. You throw in Kawhi Leonard, you throw in Paul George, they've missed close to 25+ games. Then you throw Marcus Morris Sr. They've missed a lot of games this season, right? Guys just haven't been able to get healthy altogether. Now, Serge Ibaka has yet to return, but we heard, that Serge Ibaka is going to be on this road trip, or is on the road trip currently with the Clippers. They just finished playing what's the team they played yesterday? The Toronto Raptors out there in Toronto, and they had a very good solid win, right? They had a very good solid win, but they said they expect Serge to return over the last 2 to 3 games. They only have 3 games left in the season, believe it or not, guys. So I would expect Serge to either come back in the next game or the last 2 games. I'm sure he's going to get at least the last 2 games. Now, let's talk about the Clippers rotations for a moment here. Over the last 2 games, I've noticed that the Clippers have shortened their rotations. If you've been paying attention to their games, it's something they've been doing. We did a video not too long ago, 2 days prior, where Kawhi Leonard spoke to the fact they've been beginning to tighten up their rotations. So and Nicholas Batum as well. So I think what I'm beginning to see is this. Last night, if you notice, Patrick Beverley started. So I think their starting their 9-man rotation is this so far. That's what I think. You got Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Marcus Morris Sr., Ivica Zubac. That's your starting 5. Right? This is the starting 5 because I saw Patrick Beverley start last night in last night's game, which was a welcoming sign for me, which is something that warms the heart, which is something that I was very, very happy about. Then you go to the bench. Then you have Rondo. That's number 6. Then they bring in Boogie to back up Zoo. That's number 7. Then you bring Nicholas Batum to back up, Marcus Morris Sr. And then you bring Reggie Jackson. Right? Now, let me talk about Reggie Jackson and Paul George for a minute, but let me start off with Reggie Jackson. We were talking about it last night during the live chat when we were complaining about, and I was talking about, I said, listen, Reggie Jackson has this thing where I think he feels like he's playing at Rucker Park. Reggie Jackson seems like a street baller that can play professional basketball. He gets into these dribble moves, and sometimes he starts dribbling and going into his moves, and before you know it, he's dribbling the ball off his head, out of bounds. There was one play, they were on a fast break. He was running by himself, and he dribbled the ball off his hands. Nobody touched him, nothing. He was just dribbling, and he just boom, fell out. You know the Flintstone sound, when that little stupid sound that they play, it was just all on his own. Ended up getting him benched out of the game, and they brought in Terrence Mann, right? So Reggie Jackson has this thing of making some clumsy plays. He usually sometimes blows defensive assignments. You see him just like somebody make a back cut. Like everybody will be looking in one direction. Reggie will be looking at the entrance of the building, like staring at the window, like, okay, what's up on that sign? Meanwhile, the guy already made a back cut. Sometimes he just seems to be lost on the defensive side of the floor. And this brings me to Paul George, because as y'all know, Reggie Jackson and Paul George are best friends on the team. They're always together, they're always cracking jokes, which is fine. Nobody cares if these guys are friends. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. However, I feel like Reggie's clumsiness is beginning to rub off, or carelessness is beginning to rub off on Paul George, because Paul George at times can be careless with the ball. Paul George can be very lackadaisical with the ball. Now, the Clippers can do that as a team, which is something that hurts them. I don't know why they don't come out with enough urgency. What I personally believe is this. I believe the Clippers do this whenever they feel like the opponent that they're playing is not on their level. They seldom do that when they're playing against teams like the Lakers or the Jazz or the Suns. When they're playing against everybody else, they tend to do that. So Reggie Jackson and Paul George kind of have this careless streak in them that I'd like to see them kind of get rid of, and I see it starting to rub off on Paul George, which is something that I don't like. Another thing I want to just touch on for a moment here is, y'all know, if you saw the game last night, Paul George had a very cold shooting night. I had the box score here. Let me just pull it up here for a second. I had the box score for the game last night, and I want to touch on how Paul George shot in that game yesterday. Now, Paul George, for the game, he went 5 of 15, right? So he shot 33% from the field. He went 2 of 9. He shot 22% from the free throw line, which was not good at all. But there's something I wanted to say about this. I'm curious to know that if the coach and the coaching staff have some set plays that they're going to run for Paul George when he goes cold to help him reestablish a rhythm. Maybe something going to the basket, some quick shots going to the rim, just to help him establish a rhythm. Because what I've seen is Paul George, usually when he goes cold, he keeps shooting threes, which is something I don't like. What I don't want to see him do when he gets cold is stop shooting. That's something I don't want to see, because then, he's losing his aggressiveness. That's something I don't want. However, I just want him to be able to get something closer to the rim, just to help him get to the free throw line, hit some free throws, just to start reestablishing a rhythm. Sometimes I notice that he'll still be out there in the perimeter jacking up threes. So I wonder, maybe in the playoffs, if he gets out of rhythm, do they have some packages that they can use to get Paul George back in his rhythm? That's one thing. Another thing is he can't afford to have cold stretches like that in the playoffs, because they're going to need him, especially against the good teams. Because what that is going to do is going to put a lot of pressure on Kawhi. Now, can Kawhi Leonard handle the pressure? Absolutely. He's done it his whole career, in his entire career. But obviously, he has some blemishes like everybody else, with the exception of Michael Jordan. But it's just something that worries me a little bit, that I think about from time to time, that I hope that they can kind of overcome, because they need Paul George, at the very least, to be consistent. He doesn't need to be fantastic every single night. What he needs to be is a consistent 24 to 25 point per game score. That's all we need from him. Just consistency and efficiency. That's all we need. Now, the good thing was last night, Kawhi Leonard was able to start to establish a rhythm, which I don't care about his points. What I care is that he's beginning to establish a rhythm, which is something that I love from watching that game. Another thing worth noting is this. Ty Lue has made it clear that Ivica Zubac will be the starting center going into the playoffs. So Zubac, number one, has been healthy all season long. He's being rewarded for his energy, his tenacity, his defense, and just pretty much everything he's bringing to the floor, his size. So it looks like Ty Lue has decided that they're going to reward him. So he's going to be the starting point man, center, which means that Serge is going to come off the bench. So this is what I think their 9-man rotation will be going into the playoffs. This is my prediction. And then you guys can let me know what you think in the comment section. Here we go. Starting 5 is going to be Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Marcus Morris Sr., Ivica Zubac. That's going to be their starting 5. That's been established. Let's go to their bench. You're going to look at Rondo as a backup point guard. You're going to have Nicholas Batum. I believe you're going to get Serge. I think Serge is going to take Boogie's minutes. And then I think that 4th guy will either be Terrence Mann or Reggie Jackson. But ultimately, I think it will end up being Terrence Mann, because this is why. Now, I get why Ty Lue brings in Reggie, because he provides another scoring punch, especially in that second unit. I get it. But also bear in mind, he also staggers remember, he staggers. So it's not like as if he substitutes 5 players out, then brings. No. He staggers his players. So usually you catch Paul George in that second unit, which they did yesterday. They staggered him. But what's his name? Terrence Mann is a lot more steady than Reggie Jackson. He's a much better defender. He has more length. He's a much better playmaker. And I like what he brings in his overall game. So he may get some minutes in the playoff. Now, for the people that are asking, what about DeMarcus Cousins? I think DeMarcus Cousins will serve this purpose. DeMarcus is going to lose his minutes to Serge, but I think if Zoo or Serge get into foul trouble, then you got Boogie Cousins. So what Boogie will need to do is also always remain ready. Also, they now have 3 legitimate 6'10" guys, plus that can play the center position. So whomever they face in the playoffs, they have enough size, which is something they didn't have last year because they were undersized at the center spot. But this year, you're going to have a three-man big rotation of Ivica Zubac, Serge Ibaka, and what's his name, and DeMarcus Cousins Boogie. So I think they have a solid three-man, solid big rotation in the playoffs, and I think it's going to bode well for them. So I guess we have to see ultimately what their rotations are going to be, but this is what I think is going to be. So what I want to know from you guys is, what do you think? What do you think their rotations are going to be? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.